We're gonna get started by cutting our 10.5-inch snowdrift mesh at 20 inches, and I'm going to be cutting 9 pieces. Use my self-healing cutting mat, and I'm gonna use my rotary cutter, and I'm just gonna clean up the edge a little bit. And then measure out to 20 inches. This is a really nice mesh. It's nice and thick, and I like the texture that it adds to it. So we're gonna go ahead and cut 6 more pieces. Finished cutting all 9 pieces, and just a little trick. One, you should be putting the price tag on your mesh, and 2, because I only used half of this mesh, I want to, one, remember how much this mesh cost, and I also want to know how much is left, so I don't just have random rolls of mesh hanging around, and if you don't know how much is left, you're not going to really be able to know if you can use it for another project. So save it in the original wrapping, keep the price on it, and then write how many pieces are left. So I just wrote 9 20 inches pieces left, so that way I know for when I want to pull it out and see if I can use it to make another swag with it. I'm using a 20-inch white pine swag base. I've already gone ahead and fluffed her out. To add it into the swag, to add the mesh into the swag, we're gonna do cruffles. So you can do these a couple ways. You can roll them on your shirt, but it's definitely, mesh can tear up your clothing, so make sure you're wearing something that's not going to get snagged on, or you don't mind, you know, if it gets a little bit messed up. You can also use a chip clip if you need to, but I'm just going to roll in both sides and then bring my fingers together, walking it forward. And this is what the cruffle will look like. And then get your base. And these are nice because they already have ties on them. You don't gotta add any on here. And I'm gonna place it down onto the bottom. And then I'm gonna give it 2 twists. And then you can have them vertical, or you can have them like this. And then try to push them out towards the outside if you like. I'm going to go ahead and add the rest. Here is the swag base with all the mesh added. It looks really beautiful. So we're going to be adding in our gems. These are Ferris silk gems. So this is a pink color, and then this is a silver color, but I kind of think it's clear, but it's supposed to be a silver. I've gone ahead and attached some mounting squares, and I'm gonna go ahead and use Chanel stems to attach them down to the base. I'm gonna cut off these strings because we don't need them, and I'm going to add a Chanel stem in this one. I'm not going to fold it all the way in half because I want the Chanel stem to be longer. And then I'm also going to place a Chanel stem back here. I'm also going to glue these down. They should be secure enough with the mounts, but I prefer them not to be moving around. So I will go in later to add glue around it. So that's what the first one looks like, and I'm going to do the next one. Added the gems or the jewels onto the swag base. This is what it looks like. I haven't glued it down yet. Next, we're going to go ahead and make our bow. To make our bow, we're going to be using the Easy Bow Maker. I'm going to start with a 4-inch white velvet ribbon. I'm going to put it onto the spool, and for the 4-inch ribbon, I always like to fold in the edges You can add a little bit of glue if you need to. When you have designer ribbon, the higher end, and it's a 4-inch, you don't really have to glue it. It stays, but this one, it's pretty thick, but I'll see how it holds up. I usually just glue a little bit down. And this one I'm gonna make a tail going up. So I'm gonna start, I'm gonna do a 10-inch tail. And when I put it in the bow maker, I'm gonna put it down between the prongs. And then when I get to the bottom, this side that's still attached to the spool, I'm gonna twist it. So that way you have the wrong side ribbon right here, and then the right side ribbons right here. And I'm gonna push that one up to the top. And I'm gonna do a 5.5-inch loop, one on each side. So measure out to 5.5 and put your hand into the ribbon and pinch. Put it into between the prongs and then twist it. And now you have this side ready to go. Again, put your hand in the middle, pinch it. And then for this one, I'm not gonna twist it because that's the end of it. I'm just gonna pull out the actually, I'm gonna leave it here because I'm gonna do a cross. So I'm gonna leave it there. The next ribbon is a 2.5-inch pink snowflake ribbon. For this one, I'm going to dovetail it. I'm gonna use my scissors to cut the dovetail. And for this one, I'm gonna measure out the same tail length. Actually, I'm gonna do like 1 inch smaller. And then put it in between the prongs, twist it. I'm gonna bring that tail up as well. And for this loop size, I'm gonna go a little bit smaller. So I'm gonna go down to 5 inches. And I'm gonna do the same on the other side. I really like using this bow maker. I cannot make a bow by hand for the life of me. So I really like using this, and I have hand problems. My fingers lock up a lot. I don't know if you can see that. I know it's probably gross, but I can't hold the bow. And especially like when I make big bows, there's no way my hands would be able to do it. So if you need help making bows, I highly, highly recommend this bow maker. I have it linked down in the comments, but it definitely helped me to make bows. So for this one, I'm also going to leave it on the spool. Next ribbon is this 1.5-inch, I want to say it's tinsel, but it's so fun. I don't know if you can see that, but it's got a tinsel edge to it. So again, I'm going to use my scissors, my super sharp scissors, to cut that down. And also with this one, the tail is going to go up, so I'm going to put it in the bow maker. And I'm going to do about the same size, a little bit smaller than the pink one. And for this one, we're going to do a 4.5-inch loop. My name is Courtney. I'm owner and designer of Wreath in Hand. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Let me know where y'all are watching from. If you're a wreath maker, what are you working on right now? I'm going to be finishing up on winter wreaths and starting Valentine's wreaths. So for this one, I'm not going to leave it on the tail, like on the roll. I'm going to go ahead and cut about an 8-inch tail. And then I'm going to go ahead and dovetail this one as well. This ribbon for the bow is this beautiful pink Dupioni ribbon. It's a 7/8-inch ribbon. For this one, ooh, the wire came out. For this one, I'm just going to angle. I'm going to angle it, and then I'm going to place it into the bow maker. I'm going to make the tail a tiny bit shorter. You can make it 1 inch or 1/2 inch, whatever you like. And for this one, I'm going to do a 4-inch loop. And for this one, we're actually going to do a center loop for it. So, and so this time you gotta twist it on both sides. And for the center loop, I usually just do, I have smaller hands, so it works for me, but I usually do 2 fingers. So it's about 1 inch, but I don't, you know, depending on how big your hands are, but that's usually what I do. And then I'll bring the tail around, and we're gonna cut this one at 8 inches. And I'm gonna angle this cut as well. Right off the bow maker, I'm gonna push down on it to flatten it as much as possible. And then I'm gonna slip my hand between the prongs so I got both sides of the ribbon. And I'm going to use both hands. So I got my hand under here holding it and my hand over here, and I'm pushing down. Make sure you're not moving anything. And I'm gonna lift it up off the prongs. And then I'm gonna use, oops, that's the wrong one. I'm gonna use a zip tie. Hopefully this one's long enough. I'm gonna go between my fingers in the back. Now that I got the zip tie on, before I tighten it down all the way, I'm gonna take my chenille stem and go underneath the zip tie and make sure they're even. And then the tighter you pull your zip tie, the more your bow will pucker up. So you don't want it to be over puckered, you just want to give it a little lift, and then enough for where it's not going to be shifting around. And then using some wire cutters, I'm going to go ahead and snip off the end. This is what the bow is looking like. I still have the white 4-inch and the pink 2.5 still attached. So I want the bow to go, where's my, hold on. I want the bow to go this way, and then the tails that we didn't cut, they're gonna come across the jewels, and then we can have the tail sticking out this way, and then down here we can add another tail to balance it out. So I'm just gonna use the chenille stem that we added to go between the spine of the base to attach it. And try not to go too tight, or again you'll sink your bow. My bow attached down, I still have the tails. So what I'm going to do is I want them layered on top of each other. So I'm going to kind of arch it over, and then I'm gonna go down and find a tie. See, and this is why I like to add the ribbon before I glue down my gems. I usually try to glue them down as, like, more towards the end as possible. That way I kind of have everything where it needs to go. And then I'm just gonna twist it into the ties a few times, and then you can kind of pull the ribbon up, and you want it to have a beautiful arch to it. And if they're separated a little too much, you can always pull the ribbon. I don't recommend pulling on a velvet ribbon though, because I did that before and it took off the material. Yeah, so don't do that. And then once you have it tightened down and where you like it, we're gonna go ahead and cut the tails. I am gonna cut extra of the white one because again, we have to fold it. So I'm gonna cut, I don't know how much that is, but I'm just gonna eyeball it. And then I'm gonna cut the same for that one because I'll probably roll them together. Oh my gosh, I absolutely love this so far. I am such a lover of pink. Like, pink and black are my favorite, but this is so beautiful for winter and Valentine's. I love it. Adding a second bow at the bottom. For this bow, I don't want to have 2 tails, so because we already have this one here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pinch about that much. And I'm going to put it into the bow maker. And I'm layering these ribbons on top of each other. And I'm going to twist it. And I'm going to be making one 5.5-inch loop on each side. And when I put it into the bow maker, I'm twisting. And I'm trying to make sure that the ribbon stays centered, and also that it's not like there's not too much extra on the pink one. Like you want it to be as flush as possible. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. So again, I'm going to do about 5.5. And then I'm going to pull the pink to make sure it's nice and not too much extra. But you also want to make sure that you can fluff it. For this one, I'm going to go ahead and cut a little bit extra off the tail. Get it off the bow maker. We're going to flatten it down. We're going to slip our hand underneath. It's really in there. And we're going to slip it off the bow maker. And then using a zip tie again, I'm going to go ahead and tighten it down. And then we're going to add a chenille stem so we can tighten it or attach it to the swag. And you're going to want to cut off the remaining zip tie. And this is the tail part. You can cut it a little bit more if it's too long. It should be hidden, but you can always cut off that extra if you want. It's tightened down with the zip tie. So I just removed the extra, and it'll be a little bit easier to hide. Added the bow here, and I feel like this side is kind of bare, and I don't want to add more of this ribbon, so I'm going to use this, oh, it's hard to see with the ring light. It's a 1.5 pink snowflake ribbon. So I'm just going to do, I think I'm going to do a tail here, a tail here, and then I might do one up here, and I'm going to do them at 12 inches. All 3 of my ribbon tails cut. So what I'm going to do to add them in is I'm going to fold it in half to find the center point, and I'm going to pinch it together. And I'm thinking down here, right underneath the jewel, I am going to be adding some embellishments, but I do just want to carry some of the ribbon over here. And then I'm going to use the ties on here. And then we're also going to be gluing down our jewels, so we'll be doing that in a second. But that's what it looks like. It's so pretty. I just really like how it fills in that space. The picks I'm going to be using today are these white glittered bay leaves, and then these lightly glittered, or they're kind of more iridescent, a little glitter snowflakes. I'm going to go ahead and add those on. Here is the wreath, or the swag, all finished. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you want to see more content like this, be sure to give me a follow. Thank you so much. Bye.